Tell us about your work. Introduce yourself.
So I'm Erin Bates. I'm a television news reporter for ENCA, which is a South African TV news station.
I'm Leroy Jason. I'm a photographer. I cover commercial and I do portraiture. Yeah.
Welcome to Palestine. We are fortunate to have you guys, but unfortunate also to not have Shashi with us today. We're planning to meet her and have an interview with her also. Can you tell us what happened?
So I can just tell you what I saw when we went to the border to try and come over. You know, she went in and out several times accompanied by officials. At one point it was just her and the official, then they came back with some paperwork, then she went in again. Her mother was with her, but not when she went into some sort of room. And then we heard later on through some other South African friends that she had been denied entry. And I hear that she now has a red mark on her passport. She cannot enter the country for 10 years.
Wow. Oh my
and
God.
That she found the experience quite traumatizing. But the great tragedy is that she isn't able to even enter and come and see with her own eyes, smell with her own nose, listen with her own ears. All of that's now off the table.
You know her personally, right?
Yeah, well, not enough to vouch for her. Yeah. I think she did call me to say that she would have loved to have documentation of her stay as a photographer. That's what I do. So I usually go with people to different places in different countries to experience what it would be in Brazil, be it you know, in Italy, be it in France.
Leroy, you were trying to talk more about the fact-finding mission she was going on, especially visiting Palestine, and especially that we learned that she had different opinions about the Palestinian issue. Can you talk about that?
I think a lot of South Africans have been told by others about the experience. A lot of South Africans enjoy coming to Palestine and Israel. It's like a great spiritual journey as well, I think. So it was partly spiritual and partly fact-finding to find out what was the real issue and the experience that one faces when here versus what you get told in the news and the stuff that we get, because we get a small fraction of it in our country.
I'm sure.
And a lot of people aren't really that concerned about it, obviously, because it's so many miles away, but also the fact that a lot of our own personal leaders have spoken about it, and just to find out what exactly was the difference between what people go through here versus what we went through at home. I think maybe it could be wrong. I mean, we also yet to also understand it while we're here.
How do you think the Israeli banning decision affects her?
Well, like I say, from what I understand, it was quite traumatic for her. I think she's very disappointed.
We are too disappointed.
Yeah. And I think she knew there was a chance that she would not get in, and she'd had meetings to suggest that she would be denied entry. But I think there was still that hope that she would be able to come through. And also having her mother with her as a support, there was a lot of anxiety about coming and the kind of pressure around the whole issue. And an interesting question to ask is, was this the right way to deal with her situation and her case? I don't know.
What would be other ways?
Well, I suppose you need to ask the officials for various states what their thinking was and why they took the decisions they did. And
why do you think they took this decision?
I don't want to speculate.
Yeah. Me neither. I wouldn't even know where to begin with the speculation. I mean, because I think in the breaking news now is the fact that she was a threat to state, I think, but she was here on a fact-finding mission, so I don't think it was anything to kind of go against or go for. It was just kind of getting to understand it, like where most of us are standing, where we don't understand what is really happening here.
And it is also that thing, you can read about it in newspapers, you can watch documentaries, you can look at books that analyze the history of what's been going on here, but it's theoretical. Yeah. You know, you need to come and, if possible, see and learn and listen.
As South Africans, considering the history of racial segregation and apartheid, do you see any similarities between Palestine and South Africa?
Yeah, I mean, that allegory of South Africa and Palestine being similar in terms of segregation and, you know, the forced movements of people, and that is a common analogy that's used. Certainly also visiting a refugee camp in Jordan, it reminded me a lot of home, some of the social issues, the lack of infrastructure, the challenges, you know, all of that reminded me of home.
Yes.
Yeah, like when going to Jordan and seeing how people live there did remind me of home. You know, when people compare the two, I mean, obviously because I've lived that experience and I understood what it meant to be in an apartheid regime, but it was based on racial segregation. In this case, it seems like it's way more complex than just the physical side to it. So I'm yet to also understand it a little bit more, and hopefully this is what this journey would also entail for me, and I get to meet both sides of the story. Because in South Africa, obviously, it was racial, but partly to keep a certain class in a working situation, like so that labor could be cheap, you know, and that's and it kind of makes sense in that sense. In this, I'm still yet to uncover what is the true reason for segregation.
You're saying it's not a racial thing?
Well, I'm saying not only.
Not only.
Well,
okay.
I'm yet to understand what it really is, because it doesn't seem like a racial thing, because I've seen so many black or African dwellers living here as well, yes. Both from both sides.
Yes.
You know, so it's not. So I'm still confused about the matter as well. So hopefully, maybe you could inform me about this.
Yes, yeah. We will talk about it for sure.
What has been interesting for me is people asking, what answer do you have for us as South Africans? You know, what solutions do you have for us? And it's a very difficult question, because the South Africa of 2018 is having to deal with the disillusionment of our peaceful transition, which had a high death toll in any case. Yeah. The peaceful part is always emphasized, but that belies the fact that it was so violent. And we are negotiating our own kind of history in you know, dealing with the disintegration of a dream in a way, and some of the problems that have come from that.
In your opinion, what do you think the solution would be for the Palestinians?
I'm yet to try and figure out what beyond that, is there any other more truths to the story?
So just on the question of solutions, it's something people asked us as well in Jordan. And I think what's interesting about South Africa, which is obviously distinct in many ways, is that the solution, so-called, which we're also beginning to sort of unpack and critique and interrogate, was more than just civil activism, which was very important, and kind of cultural boycott and sanctions. We needed a political solution, and allies to the different parties involved in the contest had to also make choices. So we needed a political solution as well as, you know, cultural boycotts and sanctions and the like. And so maybe there's some lesson in that for this
Like what?
region.
What do you think?
Well, that we need a sustainable political solution, but I think it's something that's many-pronged, and it requires people getting around a table and negotiating, and that's always a difficult thing, because when people come around a table to negotiate, you're coming from different vantage points with different levels of power, different assets, different allies, and so how do you have a fair negotiation when you're sitting on almost chairs of different heights?
You're talking about both sides, right? Israeli and Palestinians. Yeah,
But it's more than two, of
more
course,
than
because of the region. You know, having been to Jordan now, you understand
Yes.
Jordan has a role as well.
Guys, our show is called Shukran. Do you know what Shukran means?
Thankful.
Thank you. It's called Thank You, Shukran, for coming to Palestine. For
Well, thank goodness we got in.
yes, I'm very glad.
Yeah. I got told by Jordanians that I need to kiss the
Yes.
ground. I don't know if I should do it on TV now.
I'm glad you guys entered and were allowed to come in.
Yeah.
We're very disappointed that Shashi is not here to tell her thank you.
Yeah.
But we want to tell you thank you for coming. Hopefully you enjoy your trip here and you discover the truth about the Palestinian cause.
Yes.
Shukran.
Shukran.
Thank you.